Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Part Lane Podcast. For some reason, absolutely no introduction, so no idea what's going on there. But hello. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back. Well, what do we say? With Spurs, there's nothing but drama. Every week, there's some kind of drama with Spurs. Um, Here we are to talk about the sacking of Ange Postecoglou, which kind of didn't take people by surprise, but also may have taken some people by surprise in a weird way at the same time. So we will dissect all of that and get some of your thoughts as well on there. But might as well introduce who is with me today. I've got Wes, I've got Callum. Unexpectedly, Wes and Callum, to be fair. So thank you, lad, for jumping in. Wes, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I think just like everybody else, coming to terms with the events of the last couple of days or so. But yeah, other than that, I'm all right, to be fair.
So, Callum, how are you?
Mate, I'm shattered. I'm not going to lie. I've done too many podcasts, too many messages coming in from people the last couple of days. I must have had about 500 messages in the last 2 days about this stuff, and it's a joke now. So I'm tired. Let's put it that way, mate.
To be fair, Spurs are a joke as well. So let's get into that in a little bit. We'll chat to everybody who's in the chat, so don't forget to get your comments in. Panic is over, people. I fixed the issue with the intro and outro, so we should be good from now on. Let's go to Jay, who said, "Imagine if Frank comes in, we could potentially get Mbeumo and Wisa, or at least Mbeumo hijack the deal." Johnny has said, "I did tell you." You're firing Ange last time, didn't I? Where's your mum's in saying evening all? And Holly's Hotspurs has said, hello, you lovely lot.
I'm
Hello.
surprised Holly's alive because she had a lovely time last night with a bottle of Bailey. So I'm surprised she is alive. I had a nice message from Holly earlier saying about how she's on death's door from a bottle of Bailey. So
this is a AI moderator that is bloody sending messages
I mean, you've got
instead.
to be seriously hungover to not even be able to go on YouTube.
I mean, we'll have to find out. We'll have to find out from Holly. But yeah, she was a bit fragile, bless her. There you go, half dead.
Jesus.
Big shout out to Holly though, because I think you'll see on their socials. But like last night, she was chatting with Michael Dawson, so absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see kind of all the clips and things that come out from that. So big up to you, Holly, and everybody else that's watching. Do let us know. There's a few of you.
Is there pictures
watching
of Dawes as well doing half a bottle of Baileys as well, or is he on something stronger?
Holly, if there is any evidence of Dawson on a Bailey's, you need to let everybody know, like ASAP.
I'll tell you what though, Bailey's, right? I know we're off topic here, but I can't imagine drinking so much Bailey's that I'm like hungover. Because there's so much.
I've done it. I've done a chocolate Bailey's bottle before, and I did that. And it turns out the next day when I looked at the bottle, it was out of fucking date. I was that pissed by the time I got there. And at the same time, I may have been a little bit on some off my tits. So I was fucked.
I do not condone that sort of behaviour on this podcast.
This was about 10 years ago. I have grown up since then.
Tell you what, I'm getting to the age now, though, where thinking about drinking a whole bottle of Bailey's, I'm thinking about the calories. Jesus.
I'm thinking like the hangover, never mind the calories. Jeez.
No, look, based on your age, you're thinking about sitting in front of the TV with your Horlicks and your slippers on, aren't you, mate, now?
To be fair, I got my slippers under my desk, so, nothing to be ashamed of.
Old timer.
Right.
Old timer.
Let's get cracking and let's talk about obviously the breaking news from Friday, which is that Ange Postecoglou has lost his job exactly 2 years to the date in which he was hired as Spurs manager. The third manager ever to win a European trophy at Spurs, and the first one in 17 years to win any sort of trophy. Wes, kind of, it's not shocking news, as I said at the start of the show, but what's your kind of initial reaction after the news came out that he was gone?
I think the thing that and I've been asked the question, like, what do you think? Like, do you think it's a good decision? For me, the only way I can view it right now is that it's only a good decision based off who we get in next. And I think that will determine the direction the club see themselves going in as well. And I think that's kind of where I am with it. I'm a bit gutted for Ange because he was just a really, really good and top bloke. Do you know what I mean? Like he was one of those that you wanted to do well. You wanted him to succeed. I'm not saying we didn't want that for any of the other managers that have been in the post at the Lane over the years, but yeah, there was just something different with Ange, I felt, and it was almost like in the 2 weeks after winning the Europa League, all the stuff that was sort of coming out, and you're there going, do you know what? Yeah, the more you kind of thought about it and dissected everything, it was like, do you know what? I think he kind of deserved that moment and that opportunity for season 3. So to kind of see that he's sort of been left a bit sort of high and dry for me. Like I don't think it was worth waiting 2 weeks to then sack him. Like if they would have made the decision to sack him, it's not been done over the last 2 weeks. Surely it's been done beforehand. And so if you're making that decision regardless, you do it a lot quicker. You don't wait for him to go away and then come back into the country and then go, oh, by the way, we're parting ways and you're going to lose your job. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at with it. It was just more him that I was getting drawn to in the same way that I was drawn to Maurizio, in the sense of there was a leader there. There was somebody that understood the football club. There was somebody that got the football club, got the fans, and didn't skirt around any topics, fronted up when he needed to front up, and backed the club in a way that no manager has done for an extremely long time for me. So I do feel a bit for Ange. He will be successful. I have no doubt about that, wherever he goes next. But yeah, I think for me, it's where do we go? And I also am now wondering, like, what direction, like, what remit is whoever's next coming in? Like, what remit do they have coming in? Because if it's to win a trophy, well, the guy that we've just got rid of won us a trophy. If it's to get Champions League football, the guy that we've just got rid of has got us Champions League football. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
It's a weird one, isn't it? And I've got a theory, and I'll talk about it shortly. You know me; I've always got a theory about something.
You have.
Too much time for thinking, me. So I get your point, though. Like, what did Daniel Levy want? Do you get what I mean? Like, if he wanted trophies, we got that. If he wanted Champions League football, we got that. But how many times? What's frustrating me at the moment is how many times as fans have we said over the years that, like, the board haven't showed enough ambition. Do you know what I mean? They care more about finishing the top 4 than they do trophies and so on. And it just reiterates that point. Like, clearly they care more about financial revenue from league positioning than they do care about success in terms of silverware. And that's what's frustrating. I feel more distant from this football club than I think I've ever felt. I just don't really understand what the point is anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the point is to be successful, how do you quantify success? Well, you quantify success through silverware. And, I personally don't agree with this whole 22 league defeats, worst season, Premier League season that we've ever had. Like, there's reasons behind it. We've heard Ange discuss the fact that the league was pretty much second fiddle back in the end of January. I don't agree with the fact that if the bottom 3 were better, then we would have been relegated, because we're a massive football club. Like this, things would have been changed a lot sooner. It would have never got to a point where we'd have got relegated. The manager would have been changed like, February or March. You know what I mean? Like early enough to be able to make it, turn it around. I just don't think that would have ever happened. And I just don't really understand, as I said, what the point is anymore. And that's what's the most frustrating for me. Why would you not give a manager who's done something that nobody else could do for a very long time, more time? The other thing as well, like after the Europa League final win, and said, with these players now, like now they've got the taste for it. It's now about building on that, and they'll have, when it goes into these big games, they'll be able to then, do better and be successful in those games because they don't have the fear of losing. We all talk about how much we love Maurizio Pochettino and how good he was as a manager. Yet he was in as far as I can remember, at least 2 finals which he didn't win. And so, Ange is the manager who gets to one and wins it. And so we have so much love for Mauricio Pochettino, but then there's also so much, dislike from certain ends of the fan base for Ange Postecoglou. And I get that a lot of people feel, I don't really know, kind of upset with Daniel Levy, I suppose, because it goes back to my point again. Like, what is the point in football if it's not about winning things? But Callum, how do you feel?
It's such a difficult one because I speaking to a lot of people the last 2 weeks since the end of the season, and there was a very split feeling there that people within the club, a lot of them appreciated what he did, but they looked at it from a financial point of view. And the side of the game that had been really affected was the fact that, yes, we got 60 to 80 million from the European run, but we lost 52 million in the Premier League based on how much we dropped placements. So I think the nice sentimental side of the game has gone now. It's purely business wise, and from Spurs' point of view, this has just proved it. It's a business decision. It's not about the feel-good feeling we have, is it? We was all on cloud 9 for a week. Now I feel that feeling's gone, and the hatred towards the club has definitely become evident in the last couple of days. And it's whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. I agree with Wes. It's depending on who's going to come in now will dictate where we go and what we see from the club. But in all honesty, I don't really see it as a bad decision, but I don't see it as a good decision either. I'm kind of on the fence with this one because I honestly don't know what direction the club's going to go in. And we all wanted season 3 and hoping for the best, and the players were ready to go again. And we saw that from the outcry from the players saying how they supported him. I mean, I was quite surprised. There are a few that I thought would have messaged, and some of the leadership group, you could see their messages were a lot more considered as later after the players, or other ones in the team. But from a commercial point of view, I can see why the club has done it. Whether I agree with it or not, I don't think I do, because we was on such a high. And how can you go from winning a European final to feeling so shit as we have the last 2 to 3 days? I mean, the first news Ange was getting sacked was leaked last Sunday, which I think was a bit premature by Wes's mate Sacha Tavalori, who was his backup for Wilson Odobert last year. So I mean, it was a bit premature then because Ange was still on holiday, Levy was still on holiday. But you can see that the writing was on the walls for a long time, and we know that Europa League probably delayed it a little bit. But I don't think the game's about football anymore. It's not about these trophies. It's about the more stuff that you do in leagues and commercial revenue now. I think that's purely the basis of this decision, which I think from a club or a business, okay, fine, you sack people every day, managers come and go like that. But when you think about the footballing game, which we all love, it's scandalous. Simple as that. And that's why when I have spoken to people, a lot of people have been like, okay, yeah, we think he deserves a sort of a third season because he had earned it. He'd earned that right to probably at least be given up until Christmas, I think. I wouldn't say that he probably deserved. He didn't deserve the whole season because we don't know whether the club would have backed him this summer. But then, if they are going to make a change, then they've got to back that appointment up. Unless they're just going to go, oh well, we've won a trophy now, so we'll keep the fans quiet for another 20 years, and we'll just go back to top 4 or top 6 finishes, and hoping to get as much commercial revenue from Sky and Beyonce performing there, and Robbie Williams can come down and perform one weekend, and we'll have Lady Gaga flash something to the crowd, and it will all go down wonderful, and all that. We'll all be happy again because I don't think there will be now, and this this decision has polarised and split fan base more than I think even just us calling for Ange's head at different points of the season. To be honest, because of what he has achieved, he's done what he said he would do this season. We all knew that the league was gone by January because we didn't have the players to compete in it. So that's why they put all their eggs in one basket. And we've heard the reports of the club being not fully on board with that, but they still stuck by him. So if you wasn't on board with it, then you do sack him in January, February, and you get someone else in to do it. But
well, so this is my theory, right? So this kind of leads on to that. So my theory is that Andrew has been very clear with the board and Daniel Levy back from January that the main focus was going to be on the Europa League, and I don't think they were happy with it. I don't think that they liked being told what to do. I don't think they liked the fact that he was going to do it regardless of what they said anyway. And I don't think that they liked that he achieved it, because I don't believe that anyone believed he would do it. And then when he did do it, they were left screwed, because what do you do at that point? Because he then becomes one of the most successful managers of this football club, and there's no other way you can look at it. And so that's why I believe it ultimately was his downfall. I think at some point we may find out. But yeah, that's my kind of theory behind it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
You are correct that Ange had rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way by the end. He had a lot of rucks with the board by the end of it and all that. There were different people who were speaking at different points, which did have different impacts on it, and it's kind of taken Levy aback a little bit, and that's why a lot of the decisions that are being made are being conducted by this new CEO now, Vinay. He's taken a lot more active role within the club, and Levy's role is being reduced to such an extent. He's lost his right-hand woman this week and all that alone, and I think the time is numbered where he has full power now, and it'll be interesting to see who actually appointed Vinay, whether it was Levy or whether it was Enoch Group and the Lewis Trust as well, and whether he might be sidelined a little bit away from stuff. But no, it's such a difficult one. Yeah.
But to put it into perspective, I was very much a fence sitter in terms of how I feel about the ownership group and how I feel about Daniel Levy. I'm now completely gone. I don't trust them anymore. I don't think they have the best interest of this football club at the forefront, which they should do. And, I do believe that it's time for a change. You cannot go and sack. I can't express it enough. You cannot go and sack a manager who's gone and won, a major piece of silverware 2 weeks after he does it because you don't like the way he's acted, or because he didn't finish high enough in the league or didn't give you as much money as you wanted.
Unless you've got someone who's proven to come in and replace him, and based on the candidates we've heard, Silva, Frank, Iraola, Pochettino, De Zerbi, and there was another name, Inzaghi. If anything,
I'll go through the list in a second actually on Sky Bet, and we'll go through them all. But Wes, what do you think about kind of all that we've just gone through?
Yeah, no, I think Callum makes some really good points, and I was sat there sort of nodding along with, the majority of it. I felt like Churchill, the dog.
Yeah, fucking Churchill dog. There you go. You're on the back of a Mini.
Yeah. So it's just only Tottenham is the only way I can summarise it. Only Tottenham could do something like this, and I think the relationship that fans have with the board, in terms of, like you say, quite a few people were split. A few were still Levy in. Quite a lot were on the turn. I think the majority now are definitely on the turn. And I think the biggest kind of thing that I can remember was obviously when the players were doing the lap of honour at the end of the Brighton game, and Levy comes on the screen. He gets a massive boo from the crowd on the day, and it's giving him some stick. So I think now they have to get this appointment right. If they don't, mate, it's going to be very toxic for a very long time, because how can you not even give that person that's delivered something for the football club a opportunity to build on it. I mean, granted, when Juan de Ramos won the League Cup in 2008, obviously that was in February, still sort of saw the season out, but realistically, the players at the time weren't there, if that makes sense. Like they'd kind of achieved something, so it was like, all right, yeah, season's pretty much done. And then obviously we saw what happened that following season in terms of 8 league games, 2 points. Harry Redknapp famously said he had more points on his driving license than what we had at the time. So yeah, I don't know if as well somebody somewhere at the board has advised, because I know the statement says otherwise, but we know near enough Levy's made this decision to sack him. You don't have to be an idiot to work that out. But it's almost like, oh, don't forget what happened to Man United this season. You don't want to be in that same situation going into next season. So I think that may have played a part as well, because obviously if we gave Ange a little bit of time, don't start the season well, sack him in around, say, October time, our pool of managers to choose from will be even thinner, and it's fairly thin already. I know you said you were going to go through some of the names, so I won't go into like too much detail with those. But yeah, I think they've tried. I mean, the only logical way I can kind of get my head around it is they've got somebody else in mind, and they want to give them, a pre-season to get in with the team and assess what we've got. But yeah, I think for me it is a little bit harsh because, as fans we've been starved of that moment we had in Bilbao, and yet we get it, and the guy that's delivered it, he's out the door 2 weeks later. It's almost like we can't have anything nice for too long.
There's also something, I'm sure of it, something to do with the time frame. There's something to do with the fact that it's 2 years exactly to the day. I don't know what that is. So we might find that out at some point. Maybe something to do with compensation. I'm not exactly sure, but there's a reason why it was done on that at that time frame, and it wouldn't put it past me. But I just do want to shout out to everybody that's.
I can offer a little bit of insight into that because his contract would have been into the third year, and by doing that, it meant that certain bonuses that would have been applicable next year wouldn't have stood. But it's still a hell of a costly deal to do. Apparently, the compensation that we could be paying him is upwards to 10 million quid and all that for this final season, plus the bonuses, because he's already got £2 million for the Europa League. The remaining contract is there. And also in the third year, within the first couple of weeks, you have to look to activate the fourth year option for it. So he got a 3-year contract with a 1-year option as well on there, and they'd have to sit down and look to activate that as part of the clause from what I've heard today. So a lot of it was down to money. And when you think about it, they didn't even post out a nice video for him on Friday morning saying 2 years in the job, so good. Like, well, I think they'd done one last year where they did it about 1 year in the job. He's done really well, all that stuff. The writing was on the wall. And unfortunately, it was a commercial decision. It wasn't anything against him as such. It was just that they weren't happy anymore, and they didn't think it was right for their business model.
It's madness because we will go through the names in a few seconds, but it's not like we're going like when we sacked Mauricio Pochettino and there was a Jose Mourinho lined up. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very, very underwhelming, and I'm going to state this right now. There's nobody there, in my opinion, who is a better manager, and so to then go and get somebody of the same class or same quality makes absolutely no sense. It's like I was about to say getting rid of Harry Kane and then getting someone just as good, but there isn't anyone as good as Harry Kane. But you know what I mean? It's a bit like getting rid of a decent player in your squad and then just replacing them with somebody like who's exactly the same. There's absolutely no point in doing that. And for a club that's so conscious about money and how much money they make, and they're just throwing money away like no tomorrow. So I do want to shout out to everybody that's watching, though. There's quite a few of you in the chat, so we'll shout out some of you now. Also, don't forget to click the subscribe button if you're new here. I saw Jack, I believe, did it earlier, so thank you very much for that, Jack. Make sure you click in the like button as well. All your likes and subscribes really do help us out. So hello to Jack Sheldon, Lily White Footy, who's actually apparently Cam. He also
yeah, Maastricht's here as well. They're a couple of my mates and all that. So good to see you, boys.
Perfect. Maastricht has said, the thing I missed at the end with Ange is the identity. It wasn't Ange ball anymore. It looked like we were just trying to survive in games. This one's an interesting one because I think it's just down to, like, you've heard him talk about knockout football, and he said knockout football is different and you have to play differently in knockout football. So I don't put it down to more than just, he had to do what he had to do to win the Europa League. But, it's an interesting take for sure. Right, let's crack on and talk about the names lined up, because according to Sky Bet, and these are the odds like right now, Thomas Frank is way ahead of everybody to be the next Spurs manager, 2-9. Marco Silva 5-2, and then it goes all the way down to 15-1.
Just while you're going on bets as well, did you hear about the geezer who put on a 10 grand bet for Ange to stay at 3 o'clock on Friday? It was like,
no.
And yeah, put a 10 grand bet on to stay until the 16th, which was the start of August, to be our manager, and it was at 4-1. So he would have got a bloody good odds back, and got sacked two hours later. So he's out of 10 grand.
Jesus. Do bet responsibly, please.
I think it was Wes. That's why he ain't had a haircut.
Yeah. So we had Thomas Frank at 2-9, then Marco Silva 5-2, and then basically Scott Parker 15-1, Iraola 16-1, Kieran McKenna 16-1, Inzaghi 16-1, Michael Carrick 18-1. Do you know what I mean? Then it just gets stupid at this point. So we sit there with what pretty much looks like a 2-horse race, but it's, the one horse is very, very, very far out in front with Thomas Frank. From what, everybody is reading the same sources, but for everyone's reading, it's pretty much done. Like, Frank wants to come to Spurs. It's just about who he brings with him from Brentford at this point in terms of staff. I want to get this very clear from the start. Like, I will back any manager that is the manager of this football club. I just don't believe that Thomas Frank is a better manager than Ange Postecoglou. And, if what you want is to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League every season, which most of you watching and listening berated us for all those years about how we used to celebrate finishing in top 4. If that's what you want to happen and that's what you see as success, it's something that he might bring in. What he's likely to bring in is us concede less goals, in my eyes. And he's a good tactician. But my concern is it's not going to be as exciting as it was, under Ange. But I'd like to hear, there's quite a lot of you watching, so I would like to hear kind of your thoughts on Thomas Frank, and if you have any other options you would like Spurs to sign as manager. But there's no one in that list that, if the third place person in that is Scott Parker, that's how bad of a list we've got going on. That's the third most likely person to join as a manager. It's absolutely wild. But Wes, what are your thoughts? I saw you shaking your head a little bit there about Thomas Frank. What are your thoughts?
I don't get it.
No?
Simple. I don't get the hype, the furore around Thomas Frank. I really don't. It's just screams for me Nuno 2.0. Like, he's not a fit for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The job is too big for him. The football club is too big for him. He will get swallowed up very quickly, in my opinion. The job that he has on his hands now, and I mean, we could have said this about anybody if Ange was sacked, but the job he has now coming in is huge, and it's not because of the fact that we've won a trophy. It's just, I mean, the job in itself is a massive job anyway. But now you've got to add into the fact that we have won a trophy, so now expectations are heightened like you would not believe. Is it we want this now sustained period of success? What success has Thomas Frank had in his managerial career?
Your dad has literally just written saying we have let a guy leave who wins a cup and replace him with a guy who hasn't. And
is your dad sitting next to you as usual?
No, he's not. No, he's not. I promise you. But yeah, I can't. He doesn't. So we were told by Levy that we've got our Tottenham back and we are playing the Tottenham way. I've not seen one Brentford game in Thomas Frank's period in charge of Brentford, and I'm including the Championship in that, that tells me he's going to come in and play this so-called Tottenham way. He's very much right. It's almost like, and I hate kind of coining these types of phrases, but he's almost a Danish version of Sam Allardyce, Tony Pulis, and Neil Warnock, because it's don't fuck about with it at the back. If you can get away with playing in the middle, play in the middle, but fucking play in the other half and turn the other opposition, and we will then get our two forwards in Mbuemo and Visser to run the channels, etc., and then we will score off. I'm not paying top dollar, I'm afraid, to watch that shower.
I'm playing FIFA.
Mate, no, do you know what? I would rather play FIFA. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd rather play Football Manager. So yeah, it's just not one that inspires me. It's like, mate, I look at it now from a player's point of view, and I don't feel like he's going to attract the level of player that we require, because we are now in the big boys. We are up with the big boys now in the Champions League. Like, if we are linked with a player and Thomas Frank's calling to say, yeah, I want you part of my team and my squad. This is the role I've got for you. Go, yeah, all right. But we've heard from the players that Ange Postecoglou signed, the phone call they had with him is the clincher, and that was the moment that the players were hooked, not just sold, hooked by what we were trying to achieve. Maddison famously come out and said, Ange had said to him that you're going to see a different Tottenham, whether you sign here or not. Mate, the reverse psychology on that is outrageous, because now all of a sudden you're thinking,
how about Ange getting sacked?
well, I'm a bit like, I think he deserved the chance. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's obviously, I think everybody with Ange could accept the league form wasn't there, but it was Man United aren't going to finish 15th again. It's going to be like, it's not going to happen. Let's be real. We're not realistically going to be finishing 17th every year. And the thing that I can't get my head around with Thomas Frank is, and everybody's telling me how good of a manager he is. Well, the season before the one that's just gone, he finished one place and 1 point better off than we did this year. So, you know what I mean? But you're telling me that, Tony and Mbuemo, Visser, Watkins. Well, Watkins was a Dean Smith signing anyway, and Dean Smith then bought him again. And yet Tony, well, he was supposed to go to one of the big clubs, and then he decided to get a Saudi bag. And Mbuemo, I can't see that happening because, mate, he's got an offer from United on the table with $250,000 a week. He's not going to sack that off to come to Spurs on less money. Do you know what I mean? It's, Visser, all right, yeah, decent, but
Visser don't fit the profile.
There you go.
Fit the profile what the club are looking at anyway.
So yeah, it's Thomas Frank for me does not inspire me. He does not inspire me at all. I mean, any manager that pays 22 million to sign Nathan Collins needs their head fucking tested anyway. So yeah, he's just not.
We paid 30 million for fucking Wilson Odebear, and what did that get us this year? Fuck all.
Well, Wilson Odebear's got a Europa League winners medal, so
he was dead for half of it.
Mate,
and he still picked. Listen, Timo Werner's picked up a medal as well, by the way.
So did Reguilon.
Yeah,
his
there you
two
go.
goals that he scored, Odebear in the Europa League, were clinchers to us getting to the next round anyway. So I mean, that I think he played an imperative part just from that.
But, I can't speak too much on Odebear because I'll get blasted for favouritism.
Where's any more than he already is, man. Right, let's move on to some comments we've got. So Jack has said he wants Xavi. Maastricht has said Thomas Frank is a top tier manager. Even Pep knows it.
Mate. Pep's also said stuff about other managers, so I'm not gonna sit here and go, oh, because Pep said it, it must be true.
Pep said it about Ange, didn't he?
Exactly.
There's like 40 people in the chat at the moment, so letting us know who you are, where you're from, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, please. Really appreciate you. And also let us know on your thoughts on Thomas Frank and also the sacking of Ange.
I've got to be nice to my mates in the chat because I've got a football manager tournament after this with them. So they're signing me up to what team I'm in. So we got to be nice to them. If not, I'm getting stuck with fucking...
I'd love to be involved in that. That sounds like a lovely bit of me. So we've got Big Bad Rom has said bringing a mid-table manager to work with a restricted budget under Levy. Like, what's the point of anything at this football club? I don't disagree with that. The other thing that we need to talk about, which we will discuss in a minute, I just want to go through some more of these comments, is that whoever comes in has also got to deal with the dressing room, which is a whole, complete other shit show that they brought on themselves.
Like I can't see Thomas Frank. Like, for example, if someone like Romero was parking in his car parking space, I can't see Thomas Frank going, "Oi, Cootie, move your motor, like shift it now." It'd be like, "All right, just don't do it again tomorrow." Whereas I think Ange go in, mate, move your motor now, and you know what I mean. Those experienced ones would obviously have ran through a brick wall for him.
One of the only things that I think Thomas Frank may be better than Ange in is maybe the training aspects, I think, of the game. I think he's definitely a better coach than Ange, whereas I think Ange is probably a better man manager. I think that's one of the only things that I have probably seen, because obviously he has sort of built stuff up in terms of the set pieces this year. He's obviously he's a very pragmatic man, and he's probably more towards Conte's line than he is Ange's line as such in terms of training and his hands-on approach to it. Whereas Ange always kept his distance, didn't he, from the players within reason and relied on his coaching team. I think Frank is more of a coach than a manager. That's where the sort of... And Wes, I don't know whether you agree with me, because obviously you're a better coach than me and Luke put together, but I mean, it just seems to be... Mate, you can't even cut up a piece of wood, let alone coach a football team. So, I mean, I'm very concerned on that. I mean, if you want to, come down south. I'll give you a week's worth of fencing work, and we'll see if you can get your fucking hands dirty, because we know it's never going to happen.
What was you going to say, though, Cal?
No, I think that you'd probably be able to say whether the tactical side of the game Frank may be better as than Ange, potentially, or at least the attention to detail when it comes to it, because he seems, from these interviews, he said he analyzes all the weaknesses of other teams. He does have a more rounded way of approaching tactics, whereas Ange's way was his way or no way, until obviously the end, where we started seeing a little bit of adaptation because of the players available to him.
Yeah, I think with that, though, I think especially now with the modern day makings of a football club, and the setups that you have, I would be very surprised if a manager didn't analyse an opposition's strengths and weaknesses. Like, when I've seen all these sound bites and clips of Thomas Frank, I'm going, yeah, but that's kind of standard. Do you know what I mean? And everybody was going like, oh yeah, he did really, really well. He spoke really well on Monday Night Football. I was interviewed by him. Yeah, but Gary O'Neill spoke well on Monday Night Football. Russell Martin spoke well on Monday Night Football. Do you know what I mean? There's managers that are all going to come across well, because you don't see we don't get access to that all the time. So when we do get it, we go, cool, that was decent, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, and okay, with Frank being more of a hands-on coach, well, if I look at it and go, well, David Moyes is a hands-on coach. David Moyes takes near enough every session. But David Moyes went from Everton at the time he was sort of pushing in to fight into getting that top four. He goes to Man United and tries to coach them and wants Rio and Vidic to defend like Jagielka and Distan. And he wants Michael Carrick to be a bit more like Leon Osman. Mate, when you make that jump, you don't necessarily need to do that level of coaching, because the players are of that better level. You just need to manage them a little bit more. And I think, obviously the team meetings come into play. They're very handy. They can be very useful. And I think Ange's ones was to tap into the psyche of a player to get them really like fired up and revved up. And, I think the players always spoke about match day -1 with Ange. Some of the team meetings were brilliant. But I don't think Thomas Frank's got that level of like aura. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he walks into a room, I can see like 2 or 3, say for example, like Brandon Austin and, one of the other, like the 21s goalkeepers having a chat, and he's not going to tell him to shut up, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Like a substitute teacher coming into class.
Do you know what I mean, mate? That's a great way to look at it.
How many substitute teachers did you guys put out of fucking work? Because I know my lot at school, we put at least 3 in. We gave 2 a mental breakdown and 1 we put out of action for 6 months. So,
do you know what I mean? Like we've all been there. We've all been there, haven't we? And I just feel like, Thomas Frank reminds me now of like the substitute science teacher that hasn't got a clue what he's doing, but talks in a different way. So you kind of go, oh right, okay, yeah, he's off on one again, is he? Right. So
I mean,
I don't see the fascination with Thomas Frank. I really don't.
Yeah. For me, I'd still go for Glasner. If you want a sort of a German Scandinavian sort of manager, then Glasner for me is the hands-on one, because then if you can, you then return to Palace and you buy their best players. You go and get Eze, you go and get Walton, you get Gahey, you get Mitchell. You've got players there who are willing to die for Glasner, sort of thing, and that shows intent. And you solve your homegrown issues as well. You get 4 homegrown players in there. I know it probably busts 200 million, but at least you show intent. And I
think as well, Callum, if those 4 lads turned up, I don't think there's a Spurs fan out there that's going, why the fuck are we bought in for? Do you know what I mean? Like
they're all players we've wanted. Yeah, they're all players we've wanted as fans, aren't they?
So you sign Gahey, who's a captain. You sign Wharton, who is arguably one of the best English midfielders out there at the moment. You sign Eze, who's the creative spark that we've all called for. You sign Tyreek Mitchell, who has developed into a really good, not only left back, but left wing back as well. And
you solve 4 problem positions at Spurs, don't you, as well?
Yeah.
You solve 4 problem positions. The only thing that you need then is a backup striker or someone who is better than Solanke.
I think it's more than that, though, with Glasner. Like, it's not just, at least we can raid Crystal Palace, right? Because we could effectively raid Crystal Palace whenever we like if we were willing to pay the money. But the thing with Glasner that you get, and he's probably the only manager in that list, and he's all the way down at like 20 to 1. 18, sorry, I should say. But he's the only one that comes in with like real good European level pedigree. You know, he's won European trophies with Frankfurt. He was in the Europa League every single year in his time at Frankfurt, as far as I can remember. And the only thing, and I'm trying to be as nice to Thomas Frank as I can, but the only thing that he has done at a European level is, I believe, he was like
10 games with Bromby,
for like about 3 European qualification games or something, and so. That's the level in which we are sacking a manager who's come and won an elite European competition, who's won at every single club he's been at, to go and get a manager who finishes mid-table in the Premier League.
The thing that scares me about Thomas Frank is I think he's a yes man. And I think that's why the club might go and get him, because he'll go, I can work in that budget. And don't get me wrong, Brentford have got some very good players, but we've already said it. And Burmo's going to go to Man United. Vissa is way out of the age profile. We haven't bought an over 28 player for God knows how long. There are a few young players in the Brentford squad who are good enough at that level, but are they at Spurs' level of what we require to go forward in the Champions League campaign? Maybe you might look at someone like Damsgaard, say, for example.
So just literally looking at that.
Maybe he's the closest one. You may have said Rico Henry a couple of years ago, but he's been decimated by injury. Could you really say that? I mean, maybe Coyote, the one that they've just got from Fiorentina, a young prospect, a very good player, but we ain't going to get him because he's just been signed by them on a permanent. He ain't going to move 3 months or a month into the season, is he? So what we're looking at is we're going into a realm where Brentford have sold already some of their best players, like Flecken. Maastricht, I've seen Keane Lewis Potter, good player, nowhere near the level that we need at the moment either. So literally, we're in an unknown realm here. And are we going to say that we will do club signings? So if Eze did come in, will he be signed by the club? Will just say they go and get, I don't know, Hayden Hackney is one that they're quite interested in as well. So if he goes and if we go and get him, does that mean that Frank will be told, right, we bought all these players for you, make them work? And is he going to go, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I'm here. I'll do it now. Where where do we draw the line and say, is he going to stamp himself on the club? Or is it going to be, no, Spurs will play this way, we'll sell Romero in the summer, we'll sell Charleston and Biss, and just say one or two people will come in to sort of balance the books and all that? Is that what we're looking at? Or are we actually going with intent and saying we want to get as far in the Champions League as possible, plus make a push to get back towards the top four? Because I can't see us winning the title next year, because based on Liverpool, they've already made, nearly 4 signings, and it's not even the full transfer window yet. Carabao Cup, maybe we could push for, but Newcastle will probably go for that again. An FA Cup, we was a fucking shit show this year. So where is our intention for next year? And I can't honestly see a pathway at the moment, especially with Thomas Frank.
And I think Callum, that's where it comes back to, if you get somebody like Glasner, who can come in, who's got that pedigree, who's got that authority, that can come in and go, this is what and you know what you're going to get, and actually, when I look at his principles of play, it's probably the most similar, without playing the same formation. Glasner's probably the only one out there that I look at and go, stylistically, it's probably the most similar to Ange in terms of being on the front foot, pressing high. When we get it, can we play forwards, etc., etc. And obviously, he has got that European pedigree. So if we do want to stamp a little bit of an authority in Europe, then I think Glasner, for me, is the one. And that's not even going into his touchline drip yet, because he's rocked up to South London in some mongoose and some Canada Goose.
Not going to be talking about
Montclair
touchline drip anytime soon.
Mate, he's got a bit about him. Do you know what I mean? Rocking up in some good gear down at Sellers Park. So
it's only because I have zero fashion sense, so I'm not even sure I'm allowed to use the word drip, to be fair.
We'll allow it, Luke. Don't panic. But yeah, I think. But then he's got it very, very good at Crystal Palace. Do you know what I mean? In terms of he's come in, he's delivered them something. They've backed him in terms of bringing players in. Obviously they sold Elise, but the way that Palace were able to bring other players in, and obviously Joachim Andersen went as well. But this is how good, for me, the job that he's done is, Joachim Andersen was one of Palace's best centre halves season before. They sell him to Fulham, bring in Lacroix, and nobody's talking about they miss Joachim Andersen. Like, nobody's also really talking about the fact Palace miss Elise, who's ripping it up in the Bundesliga. But the way they brought in Ismail Assar and the impact that he's had, I know it took him a while to get going, but you look at the impact that he's had, and I think everybody will look now and go, how much? 80 million, bargain. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think, for me, Glasner's the one that I would probably be able to get behind. I can't get behind Frank or Thomas Frank or Marco Silva, because I just think they're at their ceiling already. Whereas I think Glasner's going into Palace, and you can try and prize him away, and I think he can handle that jump up the Premier League. I don't think the others can.
I personally would have said that, like, actually what he's done is taking a step down to get in the Premier League to then go up from there. Glasner, personally, I would say that no offense to Palace, but Palace is a step down from Frankfurt, but use that as a springboard to then go back up. Right, we're gonna have a bit of fun in the chat for the last few minutes of the show. So I want there's quite a lot of you still in. So I want just let me know numbers in the chat. What position do you think will finish in the Premier League next season? So we're going to do this a couple of times before the season starts, obviously, because right now we have no manager. More than likely will be Thomas Frank. Then what we'll do is we'll keep doing this until the start of the season and see if any of our minds do change. So, Leah, let us know in the chat where you think Spurs will finish next season in the Premier League under Thomas Frank. But yeah, apart from the fact that he hasn't managed much in Europe, my major concern is Champions League. And I've never really had this concern before, but I am massively concerned about what we do going into the Champions League next season, because I mean he could come and and rip it up, but it's very unlikely that's what happens.
He's getting found out. He's getting found out, mate. He's 100% getting found out.
My other concern is exactly what you said earlier, which it could be Nuno 2.0, and we end up you know, and then this is my worry with fans as well, is that our fans are very quick to judge and very quick to dismiss on somebody. And my concern
remember, we've got a ready-made replacement. Ryan Mason has gone to West Brom, so now Matt Wells is the new interim manager going forward for the next couple of years.
I know, yeah. We didn't actually talk about that. So, you know, wishing Ryan Mason all the best, you know, with West Brom, and hopefully, you know, he uses this, and you know, this is just a start for him, and he isn't kind of like, you know, I don't want to use the words of Wayne Rooney, and maybe Frank Lampard's doing all right, but you know, hopefully, you know, this is just a step for him to go on and do better things. Right. So, as your mama said, 8th. Matt Richter said we're taking it all. So I'm not 100% sure.
What are we taking? All the set pieces? Because
all the L's, I think. But
literally.
Jack Sheldon said 8th. Jay said 10th. Steven said 10th. I mean, if we're signing a manager for us to finish 10th in the Premier League, that's just it's absolutely blowing my mind. That is the caliber where
it'd be better than this year. We'd have an improvement. 17th to 10th. There we go.
Here we go then, Callum. 17th in the Europa League or 10th and fuck all.
I mean, literally, I'm fucking all over the place. I don't know where we're going and all that. I think I might end up just drinking myself silly next season until I might just start seeing Football Manager just on the screen instead of watching Spurs instead. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's do you know what? I'm going to say this statement now. I've been thinking about this the last few days. I feel more upset about Ange Postecoglou leaving Spurs than I did when Mauricio Pochettino left, and that's a fact.
Oh,
I tell you what it is. Like, all I did all season was try and back Ange and believe that he could make it work. It was my choice that I wanted to come in last season, a couple of seasons ago, and then he goes and wins us something that Mauricio Pochettino couldn't do. And so I'm missing more. I'm going to say it. I'm missing more than Poch.
I mean, for me, he was never my first choice. It was always Slot at the time. Well, Slot's gone on and proven what he's done at Liverpool and all that. Simple as that. So
yeah, but no. I don't believe Slot at Spurs would have done any different to Ange at Spurs. I'm putting that out there. I don't think he'd done any different.
He might have stayed for another season. He might have stayed an extra year. Who knows?
And I believe that Ange at Liverpool, who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I think we had more of an attachment to Poch because of the time that he was there. He was a lot more outgoing with people as well, I guess, over the years. I mean, by the end of it, I know he was quite frosty, let's put it that way, but so was Ange within reason as well, because Spurs just mess these managers up, don't they? They do something to their psyche and just break them all down. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we're still a little bit sentimental about Ange, but like you said earlier, we've Ange ain't there anymore, so we've got to back whatever manager comes in, don't we, until they eventually get the sack again, because we know they're never going to walk away of their own volition. It's always going to be the club make that decision to get rid of them as well.
I'm still not over it. I'm going to sit on the sofa later with some ice cream and see what happens. Anyway, I didn't get to you.
You're going to put Bridget Jones on. You're going to put Bridget Jones on, mate.
Big pants on.
Oh God.
Anyway, right, lads, where are we finishing next season? Where's I'll come to you.
This is with Thomas Frank, I assume, right?
Yeah. Let's go. Thomas Frank.
Okay. We finish 11th.
11th. Does he make the end of the season?
He shouldn't make the start of the season. Never mind the fucking end of the season. He's not a good manager. Anybody that's trying to convince me that he's a good manager, mate, you can throw up anything. You can throw up all the stats, all the data you want. Watch football with your eyes, and then tell me that Thomas Frank is a manager worthy of being at a club in the Champions League.
Where are we finishing with Thomas Frank next season?
Well, I don't even think Spurs are worthy of the Champions League at the moment. Let's put it that way. The way that we demonstrate ourselves, we've got everything we wanted, and yet fucking sack our manager. So, I mean, I think we should probably be sitting out of it. But no, I think if Frank's our manager, maybe 8th. I can't see a big finish, and I struggle to see how we're going to do in cup competitions because ultimately his runs haven't been great.
Yeah, I'm going to go 9th. So we've ended up with a 9th, a 10th. Oh, no, wait, 8th, 9th, and 11th. So that's how optimistic we are going into next season already. I'll read this out from Danny, who said, I just want Ange to go to another Premier League team next year and stick it up Spurs.
Apparently could go to Leeds. There is talk of it if they remove Daniel Farker, or he's going to go out to Greece or Germany.
I don't think he'd take a step down to this at this point in his career to go to Greece, surely. But it's something that we did mention. I actually reposted it yesterday. That I did mention previously that if we got rid of Ange, my fear was that he would then go and do really well at another Premier League club. And his record against Thomas Frank is, I believe,
unbeaten.
3 wins, 1 draw.
3 wins, 1 draw. So imagine the fear in your eyes if he does go. Let's just say Leeds, right? Does go Leeds, and then he comes up against us in the touchline. You're thinking he's unbeaten against Thomas Frank. I don't know. Don't know what to do anymore. Anyway,
Levy must have seen how Thomas Frank played against us and went, yeah, that's a bit of me, that.
Right, let's go around the houses one more time. A quick Levy in or Levy out at this point. Wes?
Out. Get the lot of them out. Get the
Callum?
lot of them gone.
Levy out, Enoch out.
Game's gone. Get them gone.
I'd have to agree with both of you on there. I've been turned. You know how to break me. But
you've fallen to the dark side with us.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say the words yet, but I'll get round to that soon.
Go on, anyway, say it. Go on, say it.
Do it.
Not yet.
Do the raw. Do the raw.
Anyway, look, thanks to everyone that's tuned in. There's been so many of you in the chat, so I really do appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you are clicking the like and subscribe buttons. But Callum, you're doing a lot at the moment. Not a lot on this channel, but you're doing a lot on other channels. Where can everyone find you?
I'm seem to be doing the circuit at the moment, mate. I will start coming back on this because I'm stepping back from a couple of them in a couple of weeks' time anyway. So it's Callum Stubbs 97 on X, and I'll be throwing out some tidbits in terms of stuff on X soon about different bits of information I get as well.
Nice. And Wes, how can everyone find you?
Yeah, Twitter is @Wezo10, unofficial Mr. Dembele fan account. Will probably turn into the unofficial Kevin Danso fan account at some point as well. Now he has signed on the dotted line. Instagram's @Wezo32. Well, depends on the manager. I was at Spurs games, but might revoke my season ticket if we end up with that Danish fraud in charge next season. So Instagram's @Wezo32, and then anything football coaching related, like the merch, Kofa, MK or Kickoff Football Academy across your socials, and then also on the Hotspur Huddle, which will be changing into a brand new name with some new stuff coming for the upcoming season. That's usually on Wednesday nights with the lovely Holly, who is half dead by a bottle of Bailey's, as we discussed earlier, and my good friend Nelson as well. So basically a B-Tech version of CBS.
Unreal. Absolutely love that.
Are you Mika? Are you Mika, Wes?
No, Nelson is Meeks. I'm probably more Thierry.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Being at kids. Anyway, if you want to follow me, you can Luke_Park Lane, but more importantly, follow us on Park Lane Podcast and also follow the other lads as well. It's Park Lane Podcast on all socials, so any of you that's still here, go on to every single social media account that you can think of, and you might find us. Search Park Lane Podcast, and we're trying to get to 1,000 TikTok followers by the start of the season, so make sure you do that as well. Also, if you've missed the news, Harry Scarf will be back on the channel next season. His first show will be the week before the season starts. So all good stuff to start coming on. We're going to change it up slightly. Everybody will get, every week we'll have a different one of these guys hosting the show, and we'll try and bring you the best content that we can do. But once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you next week, and a very reluctant, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. No.